different sessions. If you haven't done it before, you can sort of wait after the first session to send me your slides. But I have a template here. Send me one slide to tell us about your network, and we'll invite you on stage later to introduce yourself to everybody. Tonight there will be a peering social held downstairs on the 4th floor. It is a by invitation only event, so essentially all of you guys presumably are peering related, so you're all invited. So you will need a ticket, so come to me or other people from Equinix. Gary, Parker, Greg has some tickets, Gary has some tickets, Tina should have some tickets on the corner there, I should have some tickets, so come look for me. Limited seating, so when we run out, sorry guys. So anyway, without further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker, Mr. Kams Yeung from Akamai, to talk about the path to 100 IX. Please give him a warm welcome.
Morning, everyone. So my name is Kams Yeung. So I'm one of the network architects from Akamai. So today I'm going to talk about the path to 100 IX. So we are a company that we've doing CDN. I think all of you know that. But we are going to talk about how we use IX, how do we reach to 100 IX, and how we use a internet exchange. So this is an overview of the today agenda. So we are the first CDN player that reached to 100 IX. So we can actually count how many IX that we connect on PeeringDB. And we're going to talk about how we use IX, why, how, when, and how internet exchange would help us to localize the traffic. And what's after that. So this is a little bit of history and data statistics that about our connection with internet exchange. So we start with the first internet exchange in PIX. At that time, it's called Palo Alto Internet Exchange, and now I think it's acquired by Equinix, so it's Equinix Palo Alto. And for Europe, EMEA, we connected the first IX in Links in 2001, and then in the same year, we connected to DKXM 60 at the major big IX in Europe, and then we expand to Hispanics in 2002. In Asia, we connected the first IX in JPX. This is also in 2002. This is a trend that about our connection with IX over time, but this is actually not. So we don't lost the history. So we actually start counting from 2007, and this data is actually only up to last year August. And you can see that from last year August, we already reached to 110. So we connect to 100 IX actually at the time of about like early last year. And this is the capacity that we have over the internet exchange. So we have a total of 5.21 terabit of peering capacity, but our utilization is always like you see the P95 or the FH, we only use most of them. On FH, we only use half of the public capacity. And we connect in like 110 locations and in 33 countries. So it's quite widespread, and we connect to a lot of different internet exchange. And this is the number by countries. So this is cluster mean, this is the Akamai cluster, because it's not like it's like how many cluster of Akamai cluster. Because for the same internet exchange, we may have multiple clusters connected to the same internet exchange because of redundancy or capacity. So you can see that in US or Germany, Australia, we have the most cluster that connect to the internet exchange. And this is the technology that we use, because we have been start using 100 gig, I think like 2-3 years back. So in terms of number of ports, we actually have, I think it's 9 100 gig port. And we have over a lot of 20 gig to 80 gig mean these are LACP link bundle port. So we when we upgrade, we usually like 10 gig, 20 gig, 40 gig, 80 gig, using LACP to upgrade. So these are the distribution of the link speed that we have. And we still keep a little bit of 1 gig because there's some very small ISP that the traffic is simply 1 gig is more than enough. And here's why we connect to Internet Exchange, why peering is essential, useful to Akamai. The first thing is, of course, from a cost perspective, if we are sending traffic from a peering, usually that is lower than a transit cost. Of course, you can argue that the US transit price is also dropping away, or the Europe transit price is dropping very fast. But this is in general, especially in Asia. The peering is still much cheaper than transit. And the other thing is the peering is usually, the traffic export is usually a fixed cost. So you pay for a port charge, or you can eat, rather than a transit link. Sometimes you burst, then you have to pay for the P95. So overall, it's a less cost than transit. And of course, the other thing is, major thing is because of the performance. So because we direct peering with the ISP, so that means we have a direct connection without a transit link or a middleman in the between. So we remove all the bottleneck, potential congestion. And you can see the data, like this is a sample data that we have to deliver a 4K video that require 50 meg video stream, and that require a 34 milliseconds. That's basically, you can send traffic like out of the country, most likely. So you have to keep the traffic local within the country or even within the city. And this is assumption of that there's no transmission and packet loss when we have that bandwidth requirement. So because we deliver a lot of content over like video, or that require a lot of high throughput and short latency. So that's why it's very important for a CDN. Yeah. And here again, why we joined an Internet Exchange, because number one is we want to reduce our cost, as I mentioned. And when we use less transit, it usually means the other side also use less transit, because if you have to send over transit link, that means the other side also have to pay. So it's actually a mutual benefit to us and also to the other side of the Internet Exchange. Overall, it's a better performance for Internet Exchange in terms of latency, topology, diversity. That means we have more path to send traffic, and so the latency means higher throughput. And of course, then we have the Internet Exchange because of what we want to use, the geographic coverage and capacity. For example, like there are a lot of Internet Exchange that is like a major hub. I think, you know, M6, there's like pan-European, or Hong Kong is like the Asia hub, or Singapore is like the Asia hub. So we connect to Internet Exchange in like Singapore or Hong Kong. It's not only for sending traffic local there. We actually, let's say, connect to Hong Kong, we actually send a lot of traffic to Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, because of the IX has a very wide coverage. And connecting to IX is actually helping the whole ecosystem, because it's like a snowball effect. When people, let's say, when a content provider connect to an IX, then the eyeball will come, and then the more content provider, and then more eyeball. So it's helping the whole ecosystem of the internet community. So there's a lot some design consideration that when we connect to a Internet Exchange. So there's a lot of IX that have multiple lanes, like links. What we do is, because they usually share a lot of overlapping members. So what we do is we usually have different clusters to connect to both. But then the two clusters probably have almost similar content but different, because they could be a different size, and then we put different content. And the intelligence is actually on the Akamai mapping system. The way that we do is we always try to maximize the link utilization, but without congesting it. So it is a method that we connect to the same exchange, because if you are using like a BGP, if you connect to the same IX, you probably just only have one single best path. The same thing happened that when we have over connected to the same LAN, we also have different clusters. For example, we have two clusters that connect to the Hong Kong IX, because for redundancy, when one cluster is going for a maintenance, then we can shift traffic to another cluster. So even for a same IX, we probably have multiple clusters connect to it. And we connect to them in different locations. That means different data centers because of the diversity. So this is all the design consideration that we have. And the other thing is quite common things that I think you guys probably will do is when we first connect to an internet exchange, like especially when the first time that we connect to it, then we usually will go straight to peer with the route server because this is the quicker ways to ramp up the traffic. I assume that most of the members already connected to the route server. And then we slowly will contact each of the individual members for the bilateral public peering because we actually still prefer bilateral public peering because we have a better control and then we can less rely on the route server. But the route server could have they could have maintenance, software update, etc. And different route server have different behavior. Sometimes they have prepare an AS or no. So we actually want to go for a public bilateral peering because of that. Yeah, but the other thing is, but the IX also come with some drawback. Like we are difficult to control the traffic. I think all of you know that we are difficult to control the traffic per IX member. Of course, if you have a bilateral, then you can do that. But after all, they are shared with the same physical link. So there's a lot of manual interruption when you have to tune the traffic. So sometimes when one of the member that wish to a particular threshold, then we move it to a PNI. Of course, we have to find a common location to do that. But PNI would be causing much more cost because you have to pay for the cross connect, and then you have to have a router port. But it still it will be offload, but it still bypass the fallback of the internet exchange. So at some point of time, we think that building a PNI would be much more cost effective than the internet exchange that will move traffic to a PNI. Yeah, so this is the AAMPX. This is something that is quite unique to there's a cooperation partnership that we do with a internet exchange. So AAMP means Akamai Accelerated Network Partner Program. So it's more like especially when there's a small IX or there's a startup, they usually want to get more content provider to them. So what we do is we provide a solution when the traffic is still small, and then what we do is we deploy servers there, but then the IX will have to provide us a casual bandwidth, which is usually not that much because the memory traffic is also not that much. And then we're helping the internet exchange to grow because when we have the content, then there will be more eyeball ISP coming. So this is a operator or a partnership model that we work with a lot of small IX. And so when we talk, there's a lot of internet exchange providers that come to us and then they want us to host and cache server there. But a lot of time that they may not have exactly the local expertise, or they may not have a lot of eyeball members. So what we do is when we work with an internet exchange, so we discuss with them to see whether we can have the AAMPX model, or we can actually help them to liaise with different content providers, and then trying to see whether our other CDN or other kind of provider could also connect to the internet exchange. So we do a little bit more than from ourselves. We also want to grow the IX. We also want to help the community. And here is our experience with different. So one of our team member, Christian, he actually is a founding member of FunIX. And then my teammates, there are a lot of them is actually in a different board members of different IX. So they're helping to shape the growth of the internet exchange to see how it could grow in a healthy manner. There's a lot of our new architects sitting in different board members. But then unfortunately, we do some de-peering also. That's basically because of there are some ISP that do very strange advertisement, like they send a specific route, but then they don't advertise it in the global routing table, and then it breaks the routing. Because most of the case that our route actually don't have a full routing table, so that we may not get that route. And then sometimes that we have to leave an inter-exchange because there's kind of like, it's either it's paying very high cost, it don't justify because we have to go for other IX, or we go for a chances is much more cost effective, or the other way is there's a lot of IX that's actually getting less and less members, so we don't see much value on those, so we are also leaving some IX. Yeah. And here is something that if you're an ISP, when you peer with Akamai, then you see that there's a lot of different things that Akamai do than a normal telco ISP do. So the first thing is we allow inconsistent route. What that means is we only allow the local cluster route. So for example, we may be like to say /24 or /23, depending on the cluster size. So you won't get all the Akamai routes. So a lot of members will peer with us and then say, hey, why I don't get all your IX route? I only got one prefix. Because we only get the local, we only send the local route. And this is enough because for us, we get the member routes, and then we can send traffic from that cluster, and that cluster is only like a /24. So this is enough to send traffic. And then the cluster will have like maybe 80% or 90% of our content already. So it doesn't matter that you don't need to get all our Akamai routes for us to send all the Akamai traffic to you. Yeah, and then the other thing is peering. I think all of you know that is always a best effort delivery. We don't expect that people choose us as a transit provider, or we have to guarantee that we will transit must through that peering link or must through the IX. But we can, of course, work together on how we can optimally send traffic to you guys. And of course, we are CDN, so when we connect to when we peer with you, you expect that we send much more traffic to you than you send traffic to us. Yep. So this is some issue that we are facing. Sometimes, so for example, when let's say that when one of the IX member, when one of the PM member, they lead our route to the whole internet, then what that means is our customer could send traffic to the whole internet because we have the whole internet retrievability for via that member. But our mapping system could detect that because we will see that, okay, suddenly we get a lot of routes from their members. Or our customer trying to send traffic to a lot of different places that are far away. So this kind of things that we can detect, and then we can mitigate, so we can shut down the cluster or shut down the IX link. And then the other things that we observe is there are still some IX that run a route server with an AS number that actually impact the routing because when we do route selection, there's more AS path, then it impacts sometimes with bilateral. We have a shorter path, but we expect a shorter path, but then with the AS, with the route server AS, then it's become a longer path. Then all these sort of things is quite difficult to control. The other thing is quite serious that impacting us is the what we call the inconsistent routing from the from our peering partner. Because for us to route traffic, we have to, that we are CDN, we're DNS-based mapping. So we have to get both the DNS prefix and the user prefix. So if you only send us the DNS prefix, we're trying to map traffic to that cluster, but if you don't send us the user prefix, we may send traffic actually over the transit link. So this is something that it hurts both of us because we don't want to use transit and then it may impact the performance. So if you peer with us, I will expect that you send us all your prefix. Yeah, both the DNS prefix and the end user prefix. But if you want to do some traffic fine tuning, then you just simply talk to us. We'll help you to see how we can shift some of your traffic or offload your traffic or what problem that you're facing, that we can actually help you to mitigate that. So this is the over the final slide. So we have connected to 110 interchanges now, but this is not the end. So we are still, there's still a lot of internal project going on, so we still connect to a lot of internet exchange. Because we cover most of the major one, but then there's still a lot of small ISP that is small IX that like in the Pacific Island, for example, or in a country that only have a new IX. So we still have a lot of new IX to go. And with the IX, the overall goal is we want to localize the traffic to optimize traffic to the end user. And yeah, if you have you want an internet exchange, if you want us to connect to you, just come to talk to us, and then we will discuss how we can collaborate. And finally, if you want to peer with us, just send an email to peering@akamai.com. And this is last slide. Just because this slide is actually I brought from my teammate. So I just want to do a special thanks to my teammate, Matt Ringo, who based in US, who actually do all the data collection during the presentation. And then also thank some of our old folks in Akamai who provide all the historical data. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Don't run away yet. Any questions, anyone? Mr. Warney?
Presentation, Kams. I think it would be very helpful if you were able to document and help the rest of us when you do decide to leave an IX, the reasons why, so we don't have to waste time and potentially leave as well. That might be helpful.
Sorry, I don't get it, sorry.
If you would let people know why and list the exchanges you've left and the reasons why. So if there's performance problems, I obviously don't want to spend the cycles connecting to a place you've already been and decided it was substandard and left, because that would save me some time.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So yeah, there's always a multiple factor there when we leave an IX. Commercial is just one of them. Performance is the other one. So if you are concerned about a specific IX, that's why we leave them. Just we can discuss later, because this all come with different reasons and factors.
Okay, we can talk offline. I was just trying to save the community time if you found some place that was substandard, not from a commercial point of view.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Cody, are you trying to ask a question? Oh, sorry.
Hi. You mentioned Pacific Islands, and this is an area that I do work in a little bit. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've noticed a lot when dealing with international internet community is that there's a total overestimation about the technical and personnel infrastructure about what's going on Pacific Islands. Most smaller Pacific Islands that I deal with only have a single ISP, and you would often find that there may not even be the technical competence there to run a peering exchange. In fact, what you'd need to do as a content delivery network provider, and Akamai I think is one of the ones that really ought to be present there. You really need to go into the islands and you need to literally build them a content delivery network on the island, which will make it a lot easier if they're hanging off satellites. It'll save them a lot in terms of satellite capacity. And moreover, you'll really, in many ways, have to do the job for them, because, I mean, I know of one representative from a Pacific Island ISP here, who's here at APRICOT, and he's the only one. There's currently nobody on the island looking after the internet there. So that's what you're dealing with in practice. And you really need to go there.
Yep.
Thank you.
So yeah, we do have some deployment in Pacific Islands, but not that much at this moment. But that's actively that we are discussing with a lot of different Pacific Islands, so yeah.
Hi, there's Joe Abley here. Just on the very beginning of your presentation, you had a list of where the earliest exchange points deployments happened, and in APAC, I think you had JPIX in 2002. Mm-hmm. So in 2000, Barry Green asked a few of us at Clear to deploy some equipment in the Sky Tower in level 48 to support NetDay, and I think that was the first Akamai node that I know about in Asia Pacific. It was a level 48 in the Sky Tower in 2 Clear cabinets next to across the row from the community cabinet that have the exchange fabric?
Good question. I actually don't know that historical data, but yeah, I would go back to check. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Nishal Gabardhan, no hats. I have a question specifically about small internet exchange points. You've mentioned the really big internet exchange points out there and the model that works for them, but you also spoke about how Akamai can help small and developing internet exchange points get members. You said more traffic, more members, we all know the story. What you also said was that you expect the internet exchange point operator to provide what we'd call the cacheful bandwidth or the upstream transit bandwidth that's necessary for them. How do you reconcile the difference between a small internet exchange point operator that probably is running as a non-profit and has maybe one volunteer person having to go out and do that against, one person running the small internet exchange point in his spare time with no equipment, because that was the kind of the next point in your slide, we're happy to donate your equipment and stuff, with them going and finding transit bandwidth to fill a cache, which, it's not a lot of traffic in a lot of sense for the big IXPs here, but even if it's 150 megabits or 200 megabits a second, that's often a lot of traffic for very small internet exchange points. So I understand that it's a deployment model of yours, and it's a deployment model for at least one other big search engine that does this sort of thing. But there are other CDNs that don't do this. There are other CDNs that say, okay, well, we think there's value in your market, and we're going to build out into your market, and no names mentioned here. So at what point do you reconcile that it's worthwhile paying for transit to get into a market versus, well, no, Mr. IXP, if you want us there, it's your problem. You've got to find out how to pay to get us there. I think there's small IXPs, and the gentleman made an excellent point about the Pacific Islands. I don't know very much about this region, but I know there are lots of small IXPs in my region of the world that would definitely appreciate the model where you say, we want to help you grow and develop. Because after all, your goal is to get your customers.
Yeah.
Should I?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Christian from Akamai. One or two statements about that, or hopefully to answer that question. So in general, when we make an evaluation, if you want to go to an IX, besides performance and a couple of other components, the question is, what does it cost us to go there? And when we figure out that it is much, much more expensive to go to an IX instead of actually sending it via via transit, then the question comes up, can we do it? The answer usually then would be for such a small IX, sorry, we cannot come. Doesn't make any sense, it's like 5 times more expensive. So, sorry, nothing we can do here. One example would be, we looked into Africa. I know the numbers a little bit better there, so let me use that as an example. And when we looked into Africa, we figured when the transit cache fill would cost around $200–300, or like in Lesotho or Swaziland, up to $1,000, in comparison to whatever we served them from, like London or somewhere in Middle Europe, where it is around $1 or 50 cents or whatever. That's a factor of 1,000 different. That does not make any sense for any business case. So what we tell the people there is, we are happy to come, but we got to find a way where we are not paying that 1,000, otherwise the business case doesn't fly. This is not a blackmailing, right, where we say you have to give us all the money or you have to bear our costs. This is more like, we are happy to come, but we got to find a way that it makes sense for both of us. And in a lot of ways that works, and this is why we are on so many IXs in comparison to others, because then we find something with the community. So we are not offloading it necessarily to the one volunteer person in that country, but we say, if you can bring us together with the networks which are already connected, we can hopefully find a way how we mitigate that money. Because end of the day, a very easy example, hopefully, if the IX has 5 gigs, and let's assume we have a cache hit ratio from 1 to 5, they have to backhaul the 5 gigs into their particular country very far away somewhere. But to fill the cache, it's actually just 1 gig. So if we now find a way that all of them together pay the 1 gig, which they save all together 4 gigs, this is already a cost saving for them, and it allows us to go there. And then often this one person is just the moderator, which helps us to bring us into contact with the local, and then we try to find a way to deploy. And that helps, I guess, all of us. It helps them to have the cache closer, save the money actually still, right? It's not that they pay our costs. And it helps the performance for the end users there. So usually it's a win-win for all of us. Does that answer the question to the gentleman? Good, thanks.
Mehmet Aksum from Yahoo. For the small islands, having lived for a short while in Guam and Puerto Rico for a couple of years, I want to talk about a small project that I just came across. It's from Brazil, actually. It's called OpenCDN. I don't know how many of you are actually aware of this. It's not really a question, but it's really a comment for the small island, question. There's a project out there. It's called OpenCDN. If several people that would show interest to deploy some hardware in these, off-site islands, I think it would be possible for several companies to collaboratively serve their caches and get more value out of their hardware investment, software investment. Would Akamai be interested in participating in such open source platforms? This is my question.
Today we run our own, so today we run on our own software stack because we always optimize down to like the kernel, the protocol level. But we do have discuss about an open source platform, etc. So this part I think could be discussed further. I don't have an exact answer to you now, but I know that there's some internal discussion about whether we can port our CDN to more another platform.
Rajesh Charya, President ISP Association of India, as well as the Director of National Internet Exchange of India, and I have my own ISP, CG Online. When we are talking of the Akamai CDN in India, everybody knows that ISPs, especially the small ISPs, are bleeding a lot. We have to pay the upstream a cost, and the user experience are not peering with the ISPs. My concern from my ISP to Akamai, that whenever I am requesting that I want to peer with the Akamai, they put a minimum data of 500 MB for the eligibility, as the eligibility, which is quite large looking towards the India. In India, like Google, who has got their peering center, and if anybody wants to connect to Google, they can take their last mile and can go and peer with the Google without paying any charges to the Google. Only the last mile has to pay. We are able to save the cost a lot. Why the Akamai is not coming so liberally in India for either reducing this limit of 500 MB to 250 MB at least, so that the smaller ISP of the different area can be able to get connected, and furthermore, it will be increase the user's experience.
Yeah, thanks. So there's two aspects. One is the charge threshold. We do set a threshold because there's a capex investment that we have to put. So we have to put at least like a few servers and a search. So there's a capex involvement involved. So that's why we want to set threshold. And 500 meg is actually the way that we set right now. The other thing is, if you are really a small ISP, that means you have less user relatively, and then the cache ratio would not be very high. What I mean is, let's say you have, I don't know, let's say you have 10,000 users, but then all of them could be browsing different content, but at the end, you end up that we are not caching the content because everyone is browsing different content. So you got to have a substantial number of users so that you can have the cache efficiency, because the traffic mix will be better for a cache to work. So this is the other things. We do have deployment that you try to do that in a very small ISP, and then they actually, at the end, they found that, oh, actually we are an additional proxy that actually not helping them to get a better performance, where every time they have to get to us, and then we are not caching that content, then they have to go through it to the origin. So it's one more extra help to that. So that's why there's two things. One is from a cost performance, but if we need to have a capital investment. The other thing is because of the traffic efficiency. So 500 meg would be like the minimum threshold that we have to have an optimal cache efficiency.
No, what I was saying, that in India, like our Prime Minister has launched the Digital India program, and by 2020, our target is 600 million broadband connectivity. The user's experience is the main objective of the Digital India program. If Akamai will come forward and invest something in India, create a data center over there, so that if any smaller ISP wants to connect to Akamai over there, it will be a win-win situation for both of us. And the better will be the user's experience.
Yeah, so first thing is we do try to, I think as long as all the CDN provider or all the content provider, we do want to improve the user performance. So, but I said, to deploy a cache server in an ISP, there is some requirement on that. That I explained it before. And then the other thing is, for let's say, especially for India, we do see the traffic growth. There's a lot. So we see a lot of ISP that actually grow like maybe, let's say, 2 years back, they don't qualify. And then last year, they qualify for the 500 meg because of the population, the internet penetration, the coming for G-Mobile. So everything that actually make India, the traffic growth very fast. So for the small ISP that if they don't qualify for now, I'm sure that they will be qualified, let's say, in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months. It's very easy because if you have the subscriber and with all the content consumption, and then this also we see a lot of ISP that when the first time they come to us, it's very small. It's like 100 meg, 200 meg, and then we, okay, sorry. And then, but then the next year when we look at it, it's actually, they surpass 500 meg. So as long as the whole internet population growth, we do deploy more and more cache node. Not only in India, actually Indonesia will be a similar case. That Indonesia is a very widespread country, and then there are a lot of small ISP, regional ISP in different islands or in different cities. So we do the same thing. Yeah, so we always keep a constant review, evaluation of different ISP. So yeah, if you have any concern, we can talk together, and then we can see your traffic projection, and then yeah, we can. Yeah, sometimes we do build ahead. Yeah, but just the 500 meg is more like a standard threshold. Yeah, we do make exception, but yeah, after all, it's like a case by case, and then we can evaluate the traffic, and then to optimally deploy the server.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, last question, Mr. DeLong.
Owen DeLong, Akamai. It's more of an expanded comment. I think to answer your question maybe a little bit better, program, which is where we deploy servers into the ISP's network that you guys were both just discussing. We do also have what we call the AA and PIX that Kams mentioned earlier, which is we will come to just about any exchange point as long as we can get the cache fill needed in order to fill the cache at that exchange point somehow. And we don't care whether that's a consortium of the providers at the exchange or one of the providers at the exchange that wants to step up, or however you guys want to handle that. We're very, very flexible about working with the exchange and the members of the exchange to deploy those AA and PIX clusters in any internet exchange where you would be able to bring your last mile and connect to us across a public exchange. The advantage of that versus the Google approach where they've built a peering point and you have to come to their peering point is we're doing this at public exchanges, as many public exchanges as we can, and you can not only connect to us at that exchange, but you can connect to the other members as well. And so we believe that drives additional value for everybody in the community.
Let me just one update. As I am the director of the National Internet Exchange of India, we are into the discussion within the NIXI that we are going to allow all the content player, all the CDN to connect to NIXI so that any ISP wants to get connected to any content over there, they can connect.
Okay, thank you very much. So if you have any more questions for Akamai or Kamsi, please hunt him down afterwards. We're out of time, so please, well, you came in haven't already. So please welcome our next speaker, ARIN Hughes from 6Connect, to talk about PeeringDB 2.0.
Hi, good morning. Is this thing working? Hello? There we go. Okay. Good morning. My name is ARIN Hughes. I wear a lot of hats, but at this particular moment, I'm wearing the hat of President of PeeringDB. here to give an update on PeeringDB. So a lot's happened in the past couple of years, and particularly in the last year, there's been a very clear growth in utilization of PeeringDB itself, and a very clear growth in dependency on PeeringDB. And up until this point, it's been run by a collective of volunteers, both from administrative operation perspective, and it really hasn't had a lot of updates. So, you know, it's been running now for about 15 years, and there's been quite a large demand for features, stability, some flavor of API to integrate to, et cetera. And over the last year and a half, we've been developing PeeringDB 2.0. That is, you know, actually built properly with classes and a RESTful interface and a JSON interface and a better GUI, and now has a platform that is ready for proper feature requests in a multi-developer environment. So we are launching PeeringDB 2.0 on March 15th. This is not a backwards compatible update, so anybody that's integrated with the PeeringDB SQL dumps that happen nightly need to be moving to the API. This is up at beta.peeringdb.com. We are going to leave a last legacy SQL dump up for public consumption for some period of time before we remove this. But if you have any integration with it, it's absolutely critical that you integrate with the API going forward, and this needs to be done rather quickly. We've sent out quite a bit of notice to lots of different communities, and we think that everybody that has critical dependency on that is ready for this migration. But we're also going around giving this update just to make sure everybody is clear this is happening, and it's happening very quickly. If you have any questions about this, certainly email support@peeringdb.com. Or if there are any absolutely critical needs to have the legacy SQL dump or some other you know, chewing gum and rubber band solution for some period of time, scream, yell, wave your arms in the air, let us know really, really quickly. So in order to develop PeeringDB 2.0, we needed to fund the project, and it's the first time in history that we've actually really needed to spend any money on anything. So we contracted out a development team some time ago without a real formal organization in place. But as of December of last year, we were able to formally launch PeeringDB as an organization and filed for a nonprofit status of 501c6, which was filed in January, and currently waiting on approval from the IRS for that status. We had an open election, so we've had now 3 board meetings and defined governance. All the documents on this are public. They're at gov.peeringdb.com. But our initial election was happened in December of last year. We had 86 members registered to vote for the first election, and 284 addresses subscribed to the governance list, which is part of what defines membership, as you can see from the text in the 6th bullet there. We encourage everybody to get involved, so certainly if you're a user of PeeringDB, we'd love for you to be a member and be part of its governance if you have interest. The list information is at the links at the bottom here. You can go to gov.peeringdb.com for more information. Part of the formalization of this structure was to not just have a few people making decisions for the whole community. And one way that we've decided would be best for this to work in a global community forum is to create a couple of committees. One of which would be a product development committee. That is a group of people that are volunteers to take in requests for software requirements, feature requests from the community as a whole, to help develop the scope of work for what needs to be done for feature requests, to help figure out budgeting, and to find development resources to write them. So we're seeking volunteers for this community, and for this committee. You can email productcom@list.peeringdb.com if you're interested in being part of this development committee, and we'd certainly appreciate the volunteers. The second committee that we formed is for an admin committee. That is in part to help define scheduling and the scope of work of the admins, to help find individuals in the community who can be good admins for PeeringDB. Again, up until now, this has been a collective of volunteers that have been absolutely fantastic. But it has been historically individuals who contribute a great deal of time and a great deal of resources to PeeringDB. They work very long and hard hours and long days, and then eventually get burnt out and somebody else comes to replace them. We'd like a little more formal structure in place where there's checks and balances so that nobody gets burned out from the hard work that our admins do. Again, if you're interested in this, you can email admincom@list.peeringdb.com, and we'd certainly appreciate your help there. So today's board is an initial board. We created it to last through April of 2016 and get the organization launched and put some formality in place. But there will be another open election here in April 2016, where we'll start a formal alternating 1- and 2-year terms of board members. All 5 seats are up for election, and the online election will be held in April. So if you're interested in more information about the roles and responsibilities of being a board member of PeeringDB, please email board@list.peeringdb.com. As we are an organization looking for some funds for the future of PeeringDB and for the launch of PeeringDB 2.0, we are looking for some sponsors. So there's 4 levels of sponsorship available, and if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, we'd certainly appreciate that. You can email sponsorship@peeringdb.com for more information. And I'd like to thank our initial sponsors for helping us get launched, DKIX, AMSIX, and NetNode. Thank you very much for your sponsorship. And I'd also like to thank our PeeringDB admins. They put in a lot of effort and time to make sure that your PeeringDB is up, accurate, and your requests are responded to as soon as possible. So thank you very much, admins, for all of your hard time throughout work. Again, if you're interested in becoming an admin, please contact admincom@list.peeringdb.com. With that, I will open the floor to questions.
I got a question for the floor. Does anyone not know what PeeringDB is? Okay.
That's good.
That's good. Well, if you quietly don't know what PeeringDB.com is, I would highly recommend you log into PeeringDB.com. It's a very useful repository of peering networks, network information, contact information, the peering policies, and certain organizations will require you to have an entry before they peer with you. So with that, Nurani?
Hello, Nurani Nimpuno from NetNode. I just wanted to say congratulations. It's fantastic to see that this is finally taking off. And I know there's a great deal of work behind this, so thanks for everyone who has put in work. And then I just wanted to say, well, for those of you who are not using PeeringDB, please start doing this today. But I'd also like to see a few more logos. I'm happy to see us and a few others there, but I think PeeringDB is something that benefits the whole community. So I really think all of you should consider supporting PeeringDB, make sure that we have we continue to sustain this and to continue to develop it in the future. So thanks.
Yes, thank you for that. I mean, we just really launched the sponsorship information. Obviously the formalized organization just happened in December, but the first time we've given this presentation was just a few weeks ago at NANOG, and now this time. But yes, absolutely would appreciate community support for this going forward.
Mehmet from Yahoo. Just a quick quorum in the room. Who is doing peering? Can you raise your hand?
No one.
Keep your hand up if you have a PeeringDB account. Keep your hand up if you require to establish new peering and you need, other party has to have a PeeringDB account. Noran, you need to raise your hand. All right, okay, just wanted to see that. I think, as it was told by Rafa, it's a good idea to have this record just to understand the topology, and it's very useful. And Aaron and everybody who spent many hours, and especially you're sitting there for days. And thank you very much for all the help, and we will do everything we can to support you guys, for sure.
Cheers, thank you, Mehmet.
So Arne from DKIX, and also, as you see, I'm a PeeringDB board member. Yes, who is not yet registered as a network, please do so, and also, if registered, please also keep your information up to date, which I guess is even more important than having registered initially. ARIN, could you give an indication how much money PeeringDB will need over the time?
So there's a twofold answer to that. So one is to effectively pay back debt for the software development that's been done for PeeringDB 2.0 and some minor things to keep the operations alive and the organization alive, which is about $100,000 in total. And then going forward, the operational budget that we've approved is about $30,000 a year, which just includes maintenance, bug fix, and a few other things. Everything else will be determined by the product development committee. So as those scope of works are priced out, that budget will be presented to the community or to the board for approval. In this case, we've just established enough basic budget for the initial board and the initial organization going forward, and didn't commit the community or the organization to any more than just its initial debt and a very basic budget, which is all up on gov.peeringdb.com. We didn't want to establish any debt for a board that would come on April. So I think a more permanent budget going forward will happen in the year or so to come as we start to see requests for features in and understand what that actually looks like. My assumption is that it'll be, high for paying off the initial debt, probably high for some initial requests for features on the new platform, and then once we've got caught up with the community on what their requirements are, should be relatively minor in just bug fixes, operation, and the basic maintenance of the organization itself. So we did cap off the sponsorship for the highest tier with the intention of keeping the budget relatively low for the organization as a whole going forward. Martin.
Martin Levy from Cloudflare. Two parts to what I'm going to talk about, but they are related. I'm going to repeat what I said at the peering track at the NANOG conference in San Diego about 2 weeks ago, which was, why are the same set of people coming to the microphone and saying the same things all the time? Now, I'm here saying that.
Irony.
The irony of it is not lost. However, there's a very important reason why I'm saying it. In this presentation and what ARIN just said, it talked about a new board in April of 2016. And while there is absolute respect for the existing board, and some of which are here, I would point out that PeeringDB is a global database. And so whether the esteemed gentleman from Nixie, or my friend here from Philippines, or I see people from Singapore, from Pakistan, from everywhere in this region, think about stepping forward. This is a global effort. The internet does not exist centered on one place. It is, so you've heard the rest of this speech. But the point is, volunteer or think about the board or take it back to the networks in your local country. This is the single thing that has managed to keep the internet as well connected as it is. I know that's a grandiose statement, but it's really pretty damn true. So look at this effort, volunteer to it, decide if you want to run for the board. Nothing against the existing board members in any way, but let's spread this out a little bit and let's add some more breadth and depth to this. And that's all I wanted to say. Sorry, I'm one of the usual people saying it.
Here, here.
Greg Dendy with Equinix. I did not speak at the NANOG peering track, so I think I'm okay to talk here. One of the things I'd really like to see the new org do is improve outreach to the regions that are not using this. It's great that we can get up and give the updates at NANOG and here, but nobody in this room isn't using it. It's the regions where we have hardly any networks listed that we need the outreach to happen.
Yeah, so totally agree with you, and we've had this discussion on the admin and board lists, particularly recently, and what you'll notice is now the deck is templatized and colored and has a logo and branding and so on and so forth. And one of the things that has come out of that is a template people can use wherever they go. And these are all things you can download off of docs.peeringdb.com. And certainly we're happy to get this in the hands, and even if they need it, help write some basic guidelines for how to give this presentation going around to some other lesser known locations. Totally agree with you, and we're putting in some effort to make sure that that happens and the message gets out there. Thank you.
Well, off the top of your head, what are those locations that you need help with? I mean, if it's someone in Asia, I'm sure the people in this room can help you out.
Yeah, everywhere. So certainly send email to support, and we'll point links at people to help them. But I think we could probably put it, the best place to put the effort in would be like EuroIX, EPF, GPF. People already know there are peering coordinators that are going to spread out. So we'll certainly get the message out at those and make sure this gets distributed.
Well, so an action item to all of you: when you go back to your own countries, let everybody know about PeeringDB.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, Tim Denton from Hurricane Electric. He's going to be telling us about the observation on internet exchange point management around the world, presumably. Please give him a hand. And keep sending those peering personals. I'll consolidate the slides and we'll bring it up at the end of the session.
When the politician gets up and says he's speaking humbly, he actually may mean it, but I certainly do. I'm a recovering lawyer and a policy guy, so every one of you probably knows far more about what I'm about to say than I do myself. So your indulgence is humbly requested. I'm talking on behalf of Hurricane Electric, and the authors of this slideshow are from Hurricane, myself, and Packet Clearinghouse, as you will see. And this may say many things that you already know perfectly well, but perhaps we might, some may not, and these are just reflections based on experience of Hurricane Electric. Forward. So Hurricane Electric participates in more than 100 internet exchanges around the world, and I'm here to express those experiences and reflections, hoping that it will be of use to you in your establishment of peering points and your operation of them. But I hope you can see that listing of your participants on your website, including their autonomous system numbers, their switch fabric, IPv4 and v6 addresses, and their peering contact information. So make sure you can be found. Why list participants? Both current and prospective participants need this information to add peering sessions, increase peer traffic, and grow their revenue. Network operators continually evaluate internet exchange points for potential expansion. To make this determination, they need participant autonomous system numbers, and ideally to see what prefixes these peers advertise to a root server at the exchange. So various examples are possible. Here's one from Seattle Internet Exchange, an example for your possible consideration. Organization, ASN, addresses, options, policies are all clearly set out. One of the things you may wish to consider is the use of JSON API. Many exchanges are starting to publish a list of their members in JSON format at a URL. This API allows anyone to automate collection of a current member list. And there's various sources you may go to for your information. I know it's obvious, but get your exchange publicly listed, of which there are 4 very useful sources: PCH, PeeringDB, Wikipedia, and telegeography. You put extensive work into getting your exchange started. You talked to network operators and recruited their participation. You negotiated with data center operations for space to install exchange switches. You obtained, deployed, and maintained hardware for the exchange. You catalyze ongoing communication between your participants. Taking the last step, publicizing your exchange, maximizes its value both to the current participants and to those who could benefit from it. Here's an example. Packet Clearinghouse contains its own, and you may talk with any of their representatives to staffer to help you with getting your network operations off the ground and get your exchange added. PeeringDB, from whom you've just heard, also does this. In this case, the entries are created by network operators, not exchange operators. So encourage all of your members to register and list themselves as connected to your exchange. They will need to make the request to list you at your exchange. Wikipedia, just be careful when you do your thing for Wikipedia that you maintain control over your entries because it can be edited by others. So consider creating a standalone Wikipedia for your exchange. Telegeography, no action is needed. They will get in touch and automatically include you if you're listed in the PCH Internet Exchange directory. Some other suggestions from experience. Be the Ethernet switch fabric your participants expect and need, and nothing more. ISPs operate layer 3 networks which run on top of a layer 2 substrate. In this case, your internet exchange. Maintaining a clear boundary, separation and division of responsibilities allows everyone to do the job that they expect to do, minimizes costs, and preempts unpleasant surprises. Don't charge usage fees based on exchange traffic, and try not to charge more for faster ports. Don't penalize the thing you want more of if you want your traffic to grow. More traffic is more profit to everybody. Don't try to force every participant to peer with every other participant. This will scare larger networks away and hinder growth. So you have to recall that there's 500 or more exchange points out there, and among them are a diversity of examples of both successes and failure, and many potential solutions to every problem. Their operators are your friends and colleagues, and don't be afraid to ask them for advice or assistance. For example, a global not-for-profit organization, Packet Clearinghouse, was formed in 1994 by the internet industry specifically to support the growth of internet exchange points and other critical internet infrastructure. PCH has provided training, logistics, and equipment to hundreds of exchange points over more than 20 years and is there to support you at no cost. What does Hurricane Electric look for in an exchange? When Hurricane Electric connects to a new exchange, they're trying to achieve these goals. First, reduced average per bit delivery cost. Increase the supply of bandwidth to keep up with growing demand. Improve quality, reduce loss, latency, out-of-order delivery, and jitter. Meet and connect with new potential customers. How are they evaluated? The correlation of net flow analysis of current traffic sources and destination autonomous systems numbers with ASs participating in the exchange. The number of networks present in the data center where the exchange is hosted, and those of nearby or easily reachable. Third, reasonably priced dark fiber cross-connects within the data center. Fourth, availability of dark fiber between exchange facility and our customers and other data centers. Fifth, or sixth, cost of long-haul circuits from the nearest existing Hurricane Electric points of presence to the exchange's location. Limits on participation. Internet service providers with a naive conception of internet economics sometimes try to preclude competition through barriers to new market entry. An example of this is an exchangeable misguided requirement that only network operators licensed as ISPs by the local regulator may participate in the exchange. Hurricane Electric considers this to be a self-defeating policy because it precludes the participation of both the content providers that customers want to reach and the international participants that local ISPs must pay to reach through transit. This restriction limits the growth of the exchange, further reducing its attractiveness to new participants in a cycle of unintended, unfortunate consequences. Logistics. This is very important to think about in an industry which is constantly having to repair and renew its own infrastructure. Can a global shipping company such as FedEx, UPS, DHL, perform door-to-door delivery in the country and charge all customs duties and taxes to the shipper? Customs should be professional, transparent, and streamlined to facilitate business. Duties and taxes should be remitted directly to the government by the shipping company, and if there are any special service fees, we don't want to hear about it. Irregular and opaque customs processes hinder business and particularly curtail growth of the internet and telecom sector, which is so dependent on frequent equipment upgrades. So keep it clean. Conclusions are simple. Listing your members on your website and on public directories is simple, helps your exchange grow, and supports your members. Large networks rely on public membership information when making decisions about where to put equipment. Imposing fees and license requirements to join your exchange will stifle its growth. And certain telecommunications regulations and non-standard customs processes in your country may further discourage foreign networks from joining. I hope you found this useful. Thank you. I'm ready for questions.
Questions?
Just a quick comment. Cody Williams from Telegeography. So on our IX map, excuse me, if something's not on there or if it's not correct, there's a feedback tab there. Feel free to send us any information you have. We do corrections in real time, so it'll get done really quick. If you can't find the feedback form on there, feel free to email me with any corrections. And that's about it.
Thank you. By the way, that was a great presentation this morning.
Any other questions? Mr. Nipper?
Actually, not a question, but a comment. There's also an association of Internet Exchange Points, or Federation of Internet Exchange Points. We have several Internet Exchange Points association. For example, here in this region is APIX. And I only can encourage each IXP in the region to at least join one of the Internet Exchange Point associations around. So this is APIX for this region, AFIX for the African region, URIX for the European region, LACIX for the Latin America, and NAIX for the North American region.
Be happy to talk to you more and get more information, so the next iteration of this will talk about your services.
Still I have a question. So you said the Internet Exchange Point should not charge more for higher or faster bandwidth. What do you mean by that? That 1 gig should be the same as 100 gig?
You always have to think about the economic incentives involved in setting up any kind of thing whereby if you're trying to encourage it, you charge more. It's inevitable that you're going to have some kind of relationship between what you're charging and what you're getting. But you don't want to make your economic incentives such that you're precluding or diminishing the incentive to increase your bandwidth.
So as far as I know, every internet exchange I know about is the more bandwidth you're taking, the cheaper it is.
Cheaper unit cost it gets.
Yes.
I think that's the answer. The cheaper the unit cost. You don't want it absolutely rated in a linear progression of cost and price.
Yeah, cheaper unit cost of
unit costs.
Yeah.
Here comes Bill Woodcock to the rescue.
Well, just adding a little bit, Arnold, there are exchanges that have experimented with usage-based pricing where it's not based on the port, but based on the number of bits you put through it. And this is a really horrible idea because it discourages growth. So I think that's, I looked over Tim's slides before I gave them, and that was what we had talked about there rather than port pricing. Obviously, if you can make a 100 gig port less than 100 times as expensive as a 1 gig port, this is an incentive for growth. But there's also kind of a sweet spot, right, where at any given time there's going to be some technology that is least expensive. At this point, a 1 gig port is port. And it's certainly cheaper than a 10 meg port to support, right? Just because of density in the closet and so forth. So I think the trick is really to try to get the growth path as cheap as possible to encourage more people to ship more bits, because that's what creates the value. You're trying to increase the value faster than you're increasing the costs.
I think we should so modify it. But I will say this of my own personal experience as a federal regulator, that the biggest political crisis we ever caused in Canada was buying into a false theory of increasing prices according excessively closely related to usage. And, you know, people on an internet basis, consumers of internet services, we are in a situation where we are naturally, because of the advances of technology, getting more and more bandwidth for, as it were, less. Our unit costs are going down as bandwidth increases. And the only decision we ever made that really, really got us in trouble, and we had to reverse it, of course, when we came to our senses, but was to get a decision that bought in too closely to the notion that the phone companies were advancing, that prices should go up with usage. And you want to be very careful to make sure that you're always adding more value than you're adding cost. And I think we're all agreed on that, but I take your point.
Any other questions? If not, please give a hand to Tim.
Thank you all.
We are going to start our pairing personal sessions, so please come up and line up in the order that I'm going to announce it. PCH, SBN Thailand, Chief Telecom, Cloudflare, Yahoo, and iRoot NetNut. So can we have the slides up for pairing personals? Do we have the slides? Okay. Coming. PCH? All good?
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Nishal Govardhan. I'm from Packet Clearinghouse. We operate an Anycast DNS network that's at over 120 internet exchange points. You're getting the Akamai. We're watching you. We'd love to pair with you if you're at any of these internet exchange points. As I said, we operate an Anycast DNS network, and if you're a network operator, and if you know what DNS is, you know that you want to be as close to DNS responses as quickly as possible. There's about 300 or so TLDs on our platform today, and we work with between 1 and 3 DNS route operators, so you'll get these services there. We have an open peering policy. You can spot our ASNs up there, AS42 and AS3856. Additionally, if you're an internet exchange point operator, and we are not at your internet exchange point, I'd love to talk to you. So if you can catch me during the breaks, myself or Bill Woodcock would love to work with you to get some equipment at your exchange point. Thank you.
SBN Thailand, AIS, anyone here? No, I guess next one's Chief. You're next.
Hello, everyone. I'm William Liu from Taiwan Chief Telecom. Maybe some of you don't even know Taiwan or where it is, but it's not China. And Chief Telecom is not Zhonghua, even though we are 70% owned, but our operation, no-wise, is independent. And okay, we have 3 AS numbers. Because of some legacy issue, we have a JV with AbovNet Taiwan before. But the main one is 10133. And our profile is balanced because right now we have around 4 million eyeballs and also a lot of contents because we start from IBC. Here. Okay, our peering policy is open and unfortunately we are only in our IDC, our IX. So please come to Taiwan if you're interested in peering with us. We are trying to connect to other IX, but no, Taiwan is small. And we have a PeeringDB entry here, and also the TPIX on PeeringDB. Please contact me or our technical manager, Mark Ling, if anything we can help. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Cloudflare.
Hi, I'm Tom from Cloudflare, and Martin from Cloudflare is also in the room. We operate a security, DNS, and CDN network. We are also at 100 IXPs. If you want to peer with us, send us an email at peering@cloudflare. We respond very, very quickly. All of the locations are on PeeringDB. Thank you.
Kia ora, everyone. My name is Mehmet. I am here at APRICOT meeting with my colleague Igor. So, few updates. Our AS number 10310 in Sydney. We are using a different AS number. We have our traffic volume, not Asia Pacific specific, but global, is multi-terabits. Our peering policy, we call it selective, but it's really open as long as we are peering with at all common locations, and we are using minimum 10 gigabit private connections, or we are using public exchanges. Today, you can peer with us in Hong Kong, Tokyo, Singapore, Taiwan, and Sydney, and a lot more locations are coming soon. Our PeeringDB link is there. And one more quick thing that I want to add. We have a big off-net. As you might be aware, Yahoo has recently acquired Tumblr that is driving a lot of traffic, much more traffic than what you have been initially seeing. So we are looking to deploy off-net caching nodes into locations where we can directly connect the IXPs and peer with them. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, IRIN.
Hello, I'm Nurani. I work for NetNode. And here I'm to talk about iRoot. We run one of the 13 DNS root name servers in the world, iRootservice.net. It's number 8674. And we also provide anycast services for several TLDs around the world. We are present at around 55 plus locations around the world in a variety of places, typically at exchange points. And for those of you who are clearly younger than me, you can read all the locations in Asia Pacific there at the bottom line. Obviously, we have an open peering policy. Network operators improve the DNS resolution by peering with NetNode. So if you are at one of the exchange points where we are, please peer with us. Come and see me or my colleague, Martin. And that was it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide. So I guess by now you figured out how this works. So if you would like to announce your network on stage, please download the template or take the QR code and template. On the third session, there will be personal. It will be a consolidate. Toyama-san will be presenting that. The IXP templates over there as well, not QR coded. And well, send it to me as well. I'll forward it to Toyama-san. So that concludes the session 1 of the Peering Forum. Thank you very much.